Hey there, listeners. I am Joanne Lee Cornish, your truth bomb dropper in the world of weight loss, body composition, and mastering the art of rocking the body you've always deserved and dreamed of in midlife and beyond. Let's cut through the noise. Society tells us it's downhill from now on. We're told to embrace the middle-aged weight gain, embrace the muscle loss and poor health. If that's your vibe, then cool. But if you're ready to defy the narrative, then I am your gal. This podcast is a no fluff podcast where we break down the essential truths of body composition, toss around some practical tips, and dissect the latest trends. I'm not here to sugarcoat. I'm here to show you what's not just possible, but downright probable for you. If you enjoyed this content, be sure to click the link in the show notes to explore how we can team up and kick mediocrity to the curb. I offer one-on-one coaching, my ever-popular group coaching programs, and my corporate Educate to Elevate program. Okay, let's get on with the podcast. Enjoy. Hey everybody, it is September the 6th and it is a rainy morning in Idaho, which is a surprise because we've had nothing but 100 degrees for a long time, which the lizard part of me loves. Okay, so I have my Mastering Midlife program coming up, and one of the topics I'm going to cover a little bit here, and a little bit frustrating to me. So with regards to my coaching, I feel like I fill a gap. And hopefully with this podcast, I do the same thing. What I mean by the gap. Out there, with regards to health, body composition, performance, etc., there seem to be two schools. It's either uber simplistic, like, oh, do some cardio, or your plate should look like this, or eat more fiber, or eat healthy fat. Like super simplistic information, which is not helpful whatsoever. What does that even mean? To most people, eat more healthy fat. Well, if you even know what a healthy fat is, you probably know already that you should be eating more of it. So I get kind of annoyed when it's really super general, simplistic information that is meant to be helpful, and it isn't at all helpful. So there's that, and that's what you see in all the reels and things like that. Really simplistic information. And then you get the very, very complicated information, which, even I can get overwhelmed by, but the vast majority of people just, you see their eyes just cloud over. So I'm talking about, I could name names here, and it's fascinating. The information they have is so deep, it's so cutting edge, and they're quoting medical journals and references. And, when you first hear it, it's amazing. And it's the answer, but then you have no idea what to do with that information. You have no idea how to implement that information. And there doesn't seem to be many of us that come in the middle. So I feel like I come in the middle, and I feel like my information is, for most people, it is, honestly, it's a little bit of a stretch. It's conversations which they haven't had before. They haven't been on their radar before. They haven't had to even consider before because they didn't know about it. So the information, the topics can be a little bit, it could be new, and they can be a little bit of a stretch, but my people always are able to stretch that far. They can always grasp the information, grasp the importance of it, and know how to implement that information. And my programs, I always try and make it a progression. So for example, in my Mastering Midlife program coming up, there's a whole content library of pre-recorded content, but the actual program follows a progression. I cover like the 10 main topics to optimize midlife and beyond. From blood work to smart nutrition to supplementation to exercise and weight training. So there's a a journey that I try and create, meaning that there's a beginning and an end. It's just not 10 live coaching calls of me just spewing information at you, because that's just not really that helpful. Even though the information can be fascinating, if you don't know what to do with the information, it's kind of just makes a situation even worse and more frustrating for people. So one of the topics I'm going to include in the Mastering Midlife program this year are about these buzzwords and these trendy topics that we're hearing about. And they really are really interesting topics, and they're very important to our overall success. And yet, I think most people kind of have heard the words, they recognize the words, but they don't really know what it means, and they feel like they should know what it means, and they feel a little bit silly because they don't know what people are talking about. And ultimately, they can't even use the information that they have. So if I want to run through a little bit of a list here. So I've been coaching, body composition for a long time. And like I say, my information can be a bit of a stretch. So, when I first started talking about, lipolysis and cellular breakdown and beta oxidation and even insulin resistant, or even honestly, things like even things like different types of sugars and different types of fat, and what an omega-3 is compared to omega-6, and all this information was very new to people, but they could use it once I explained it. But now we've just taken it to a whole other level. So now people are talking about cellular energy, NAD plus, autophagy, mTOR, AMPK, neuroplasticity, BDNF. They talk about leptin resistance and metabolic flexibility, glycation, inflammaging, oxidative stress. You really should know what that is. Photobiomodulation. They talk about, let alone the peptides, the BPC-157, the testosterone, the GHK, exosomes. What about stem cells? What about senescent cells? HRV on your aura ring. What the heck is that anyway? What about, cold exposure and brown fat activation, methylation, zonulin? What about LPS, histamine intolerance? What about oxalates and collagen cross-linking and microdosing? That's a new one. What about NAD boosters, uncouplers, sarcopenia, longevity genes? I could go on and on and on, because this is just a short list that I plugged out about topics that I hear some of the main, let's call them influencers, talking about it. And it sounds fascinating. And like, do you want to tell me what all that is? And are we expected to know what all that is? And this goes back to a same thing I've been coaching this body composition for over 30 years. No, about 30 years. And this, just when we talk about basic nutrition, is an issue I have. So we weren't taught nutrition at school. We weren't told the difference between a protein, a carb, and a fat. Let alone a monosaturated fat, a polyunsaturated fat. What about oligosaccharide or anything like this? These are basics in nutrition, but none of which was taught to us. And yet we get into this field of, looking at asking AI or YouTube or some reel, or we're following some influencer, and they're talking about topics as if we know what they are. And we were never taught them. So if we were never taught them, how are we meant to know what they are? So then we plug them into AI, and AI gives us a bit of an answer, and we're still not really sure what that means with regards to how to implement it or incorporate it into our life experience. And I just think that sets people up. People start feeling less of, they feel silly, because, now we have influencers talking about these topics just off the cuff, as if these are normal terms that we just throw about daily, and they're not. And there's this expectation, well, you must know what I'm talking about, mitochondrial health and biodiversity. And I mean, you must know what that means. Why would you know what that means? So in the Mastering Midlife program, I'm going to do a whole Zoom, and it might actually be too long for a Zoom, so I might do a freestanding video on it. But for this podcast, I want to talk to you about just some of these, and because they are very important topics and they are fascinating topics that a lot of them we weren't even aware of 10 years ago. So they are important, but there's a gap there. Yet again, there's a gap between the very simple explanation and the very complex information. So it'll say like, oh, mitochondria, that's where you get cellular health. Okay, what does that even mean? So the rest of this podcast, I'm going to just break down, and I'm going to be pretty general, but it's going to be a bit of a stretch. But I want to illustrate, I want to first expand on some topics buzzwords you might have heard of and the importance of, but also maybe get you a little intrigued, maybe even inspired to check out my Mastering Midlife program, which starts in a couple of weeks. And if you want me to keep going on this, because there's so many different buzzwords, I don't want to do them all in this podcast episode. But reach out to me, Joe at the Shrink Shop, and let me know if you'd like me to continue going with this, and if you have any questions. So first, I'm going to start with mitochondria, and I do cover this. I do a whole Zoom on this in the Mastering Midlife program because it is that important. So what you might have heard generally is mitochondria is the powerhouse of our cell. What does that even mean? The powerhouse of our cell. What cell? Where's the cell? How many cells have we got? See what I mean? Super, super simplistic, not really helpful. So that's kind of where most people's knowledge ends. Oh, it's the powerhouse of our cell. It's like the battery in our cell. All right. In reality, they're a little bit more than just little batteries. The mitochondria truly are like little battery packs in your cell. But what do? They decide whether your body can efficiently burn fat. That's a big one. They decide how much energy you have available for your brain, your muscles, your organs. I mean, the mitochondria decide how quickly you are going to age. So when the mitochondria are healthy, you feel sharp, you are strong, you are resilient. When you feel sluggish, tired, puffy, like your body's slowed down, the foundation of that, the root cause, can be mitochondrial health. So the fascinating part is the mitochondria doesn't just produce energy, they actually signal to other systems. So they are involved in hormone balance, in inflammation, in how your immune system responds to invaders, to threats. So that's why when we hear about mitochondrial decline, it shows up everywhere. It's going to show up as belly fat, to brain fog, to not just energy in terms of whether you feel alive or, energetic or tired, but I mean, energetically in terms of how much energy has your heart got? How much energy have your lungs got? I mean, so when we're talking about energy, we're not just talking about if you're bouncing off the walls or you feel tired. This is why we talk about cellular energy. How much energy is available to your organs, to your immune system, your ability to burn fat, to movement, to nutrition, to sleep. All of this is about mitochondria, mitochondrial health, cellular health. And it's all linked to that biological clock. So yes, indeed, your mitochondria are batteries in your cell. And so I like to say it's like the battery in your phone. And we know when the battery starts dying on your phone, you can't open apps. The light goes dim. Think of your body like that. When you're in poor mitochondrial health, Your light is dim, your energy's low, your body, your functions aren't working, you're pressing buttons and it's not happening. What worked before isn't working anymore. So that could be with regards to building muscle, losing fat. This is why we're talking about mitochondrial health. And what is and a lot of the supplements you hear talked about now, like NAD plus, and you hear me talking about my 5-amino 1MQ, these are all because they promote mitochondrial health. But one of the biggest mistakes people are making with regards to mitochondrial health is what they eat. Now, everybody's losing weight right now and trying to build muscle, and that's all great. But the quality of their food matters. So when you're eating poor quality food, the bottom line is the mitochondria takes nutrients from food and converts it into energy. So if you're eating absolute nonsense, even if your macros work, the ability of your mitochondria to turn that crap into any kind of purposeful energy is kind of diminished. If you are in a place of excess, then all this food's coming in, the mitochondria can't keep up. And now that's building up. You've got inflammation. So when we're talking about mitochondrial health, the quality of our food absolutely matters. And things like meal timings, a little bit of fasting, red light therapy, these all improve mitochondrial health. So yes, the batteries of your cells, but it does. If you try losing weight, try losing belly fat. If you're on a cellular level, you are compromised. It's just a much deeper appreciation of what is necessary with regards to organ health, immune function, body composition, and indeed organ health. Cellular energy. I just said there. You'll see supplement boost your energy. Okay, that gets thrown around everywhere, but cellular energy is something much deeper than you know just energy. This isn't about caffeine or being highly motivated. This is about whether your cells can produce ATP. So androgen triphosphate is the fuel of cells. It is the fuel that your cells need. It is the currency of life. We need ATP to be produced by our cells to give us fuel. So every heartbeat, every thought, every muscle contraction is paid for, is fueled by ATP. So if your cells can't make enough, you're going to feel exhausted, you're going to feel irritable, you're going to have cravings, you're going to have slow recovery, you're going to have poor gains. So when we talk about cellular energy, it's the ability of our cells to make the fuel everything needs, and that fuel is ATP. So in midlife, people often think they're just getting older. When it comes to really what's happening is cellular insufficiency. Their cells are not being efficient. They've got stress, they've got a buildup of toxins, they've got a poor diet, they've got lack of sleep, all of which interfere with the cell's ability to make ATP, the currency of life. So that's why lifestyle changes or targeted therapies can actually restore cellular energy. Things like resistance training, red light therapy, NAD precursors, they can all help with cellular energy. And that can feel like flipping the lights back on in a dark room. So cellular energy isn't like, oh, my cells are awake, they have energy. No, cellular energy is the cells creating the energy we need for life. And how good are our cells at making that energy? If they're not very good at making that energy, then the impact is vast. And this shows up a lot in midlife. And it is also excused or explained or ignored because it's happening in midlife, but it can absolutely be improved. NAD, oh my gosh, NAD plus is everywhere right now. I just had a text this week. Hey Joe, have you ever done an NAG injection? What about the IV drips? Should I get a patch? These are expensive supplements. Now, I do sell some expensive supplements, and sometimes it's worth it. But what is NAD? And before you drop 500 bucks on an injection, shouldn't you know what it actually is and why it's necessary? And do you in particularly need it? So NAD, it's a coenzyme it's a coenzyme that your enzymes just make other things happen. So NAD is something that makes other things happen. And in this case, NAD is the coenzyme that our body uses to turn food into energy. We can all agree that turning food into energy is pretty important, and NAD is necessary for the body to do that. So without it, your mitochondria, which we just spoke about that, the mitochondria literally can't function. Yeah? The catch. NAD levels decline dramatically with age, which is why the biohackers call it the fuel of youth, and they use a lot more dramatic forms. But it is true, NAD levels decline with age. It's not just about energy, though. NAD is also tied to DNA repair. There is an activation of longevity proteins. So when your NAD is high, you become more resilient to stress and to aging. When NAD is low, you're going to feel sluggish and your body's just going to break down faster. Now, the buzz around NMN and NR supplements is because they happen before NAD. So they are NAD precursors. So they give your body the raw materials to make more NAD. But there are other ways that you can improve your own NAD production. Lifestyle habits like fasting, exercise, and sleep are really powerful in preserving NAD. So again, why do we want to preserve and promote NAD? Because NAD is the enzyme which the mitochondria needs to convert food into fuel. And when the mitochondria converts food into fuel, it becomes energy for everything, for your metabolism, for your organs, for your immune system, for your brain, for your heart. So yes, NAD is very important. Now, you guys probably know I carry the supplement 5-amino-1-MQ. I do that because 5-amino improves our own NAD production. So yeah, we can add it and inject it and IV it and patch it, but also we can absolutely optimize our own because we do not want our own levels declining, and that is what they do with age, and that absolutely affects how you feel. Are you motivated? Are you energetic? Are things working properly, or do you feel tired, sluggish, and have processes slowed down? And again, my concern with the medications right now is people are not focused, that their focus is shifted from the lifestyle and good nutrition. And it's kind of getting ignored right now because they're getting great results without doing the other work that they were doing before. So, I had people that were focusing on sleep. They were focusing on certain supplementation. They were focusing on the quality of their foods. And now they're not because, they're getting great results on medication and that's all fabulous and their blood work looks a little bit better. But boy, are they, have they lost their focus with regards to cellular health? And in the Mastering Midlife program, I spend a whole Zoom on this. I expand on it, but hopefully you're getting a gist on why that's important. Because without promoting and protecting cellular health, aging is going to be rapid. Okay, let's do a few more because this list really is endless. So let's talk about microbiome diversity. And you'll be like, yeah, that's kind of your gut or something, right? I think everybody now has heard about gut microbiome, but I don't think that was ever explained to anybody either, unless you read a few good books. So people might understand that, oh yeah, there's bacteria in my gut. That's probably as far as most people, their understanding goes. No fault of their own, but few really understand what makes it powerful. Diversity, so microbiome diversity. Think of the gut bacteria. Now, here again, if you're my age, bacteria was always a bad thing, right? It was the reason that you washed your hands and stuff like this. And now we're thinking, well, bacteria is a good thing. That's confusing enough. So we have to kind of reframe our thoughts around bacteria. So bacteria can be good and they can be bad, but ideally we want them to be balanced. So think of the bacteria like a rainforest. The more species you have, the more resilient the system. So a diverse microbiome, when they're talking about microbiome diversity, what they're talking about is more different types of bacteria. And this is going to help to digest your food, produce vitamins, balance hormones, regulate your immune system. This diversity even influences your mood, your focus, and it does this because there's a relationship between our gut and our brain, the gut-brain axis. So when diversity, the number of species is low, the system kind of breaks down. So one or two bad species of bacteria can overgrow. And when they do this, this can create gas, bloating, cravings. It can even trigger an autoimmune reaction. I mean, have you noticed how many people have autoimmune diseases right now? I'm going to do a podcast on that, but it's a lot. This is why, restrictive diets aren't always the best. We sometimes pride ourselves on, oh, I eat the same thing in and out, day in and out. And think that's not very, very diverse. So it's why restrictive diets aren't always the best, why antibiotics and ultra-processed foods can leave people in a really fragile state over time. Also in midlife, if I want to focus on that chapter of life, diversity, the number of species naturally declines. I mean, it does this just because of age. And so we have to focus on that diversity even more. And we do this by cutting out ultra-processed foods and supporting the diversity by fiber, fermented foods. I mean, this is critical when we get into midlife. So the fiber is feeding good bacteria in your gut. So that's good, right? The fiber is feeding the good bacteria, the bacteria that we want to keep. The fermented foods are actually providing good bacteria to your gut. So fiber's feeding it, and fermented food, it's actually providing and promoting the diversity of the different species of bacteria that are, existing in our gut. And those bacteria are helping everything from body composition to mood to how does your body even store energy? Are you more prone to store nutrients as fat or not? It literally starts from the the diversity of this species of bacteria in our gut, and as we get older, that declines with age. So, this buzzword gets thrown around, microbiome diversity, but what people miss, is that this diversity, the more species of good bacteria you have, is the foundation of long-term resilience. So whatever you're trying to build upon, be it physical strength, be it a leaner body, be it an astute, focused mind, all of these things are going to be challenging if we don't have the foundation of resilience that is created by having more species of bacteria in our gut, that is allowing for diversity, that is very easily created and promoted and maintained if we eliminate ultra processed food. It is a non-negotiable. I get into this in the program. It is a non-negotiable ultra processed food, and increasing our fiber intake and our fermented food, which is pretty simple to do. What else? LPS. So LPS is, maybe it's not so much of a buzzword. It's one of those scientific terms that sounds more like jargon, but it really is hugely important. I spoke about this in the Type 28 program I just did. So LPS, lipopolysaccharides, they are toxic. They are toxic molecules found on the outer wall of certain types of bacteria. We just spoke about bacteria. We're realizing, hey, there's good and bad bacteria. This isn't the, so LPS, the lipopolysaccharide, isn't the bacteria itself. It is found in the outer wall of certain gut bacteria. It's in the wall of, it's not the bacteria itself, it's the wall. Usually not a problem. Not a problem. LPS on the surface of certain bacteria inside the gut, all is well in the world, because they should be inside the gut. That's where they're meant to be, and it's not a problem. When they get outside of the gut, they cause carnage. So if you have leaky gut, I'm not even going to get into leaky gut in a podcast. Please come and do one of my programs, or send me a message and I'll send you, literally send me an email and I'll send you a whole video, completely complimentary, on leaky gut. It's that important. But if you have, to the wall of your gut, let's say it's got holes in it, right? So now this LPS, which is toxic, and it sits on the outside of certain bacteria, it's in your gut, no problemo. It gets out of your gut because the lining of your gut, the wall of your gut, has got holes in it. That is hugely toxic. And this is tied to huge problems, like an insane immune response. Your immune response sees that LPS out where it shouldn't be. Now it's in your blood, and you have a huge immune reaction. And this is causing systemic inflammation, and it's highly linked to brain fog, joint pain, fatigue, insulin resistance, and definitely it's linked to depression. And it's a major problem because 75% of American adults have leaky gut. Nobody wants to address leaky gut, because you know what? To address leaky gut, you have to make changes. It's a non-negotiable. And the changes that are required are changes that a lot of people are not willing to make. And so they ignore things like this, but then they'll be tired, and the body hurts, and they're fatigued, and they've got insulin resistance, and the blood work's all messy. But you know what? The body weight's come down, but they feel like crap. This is a big issue. So LPS on the outside of certain gut bacteria. Inside the gut, it's fine. It's where it's meant to be. If it gets through the gut lining, because the gut lining is all frayed up because of ultra processed foods, irritants, toxins, antibiotics, high sugar diets, it becomes a massive problem. Also, LPS is definitely a factor when we're talking about autoimmunity and the autoimmune diseases which are rampant today. I mean, think back to when you were kids who had an autoimmune disease. Now everybody's got an autoimmune disease. And I'm not saying this is the cause for everybody, but you cannot ignore the correlation between the quality of food, gut health, and the existence of autoimmune disease. This LPS combined with leaky gut is destroying, or at very least sabotaging, people's health and definitely their body composition goals. I mean, good luck achieving your body composition goals with this going on. I think I'm going to do two more. Let's talk about two more, one more. Let's do oxidative stress. Oxidative stress really does get thrown around. Like, you're meant to know what it is. Well, this reduces oxidative stress. This causes oxidative stress. What is oxidative stress? Most people just think of stress. Well, stress is like when I'm not feeling that great, when I'm worried about something, right? That's what stress is for most people. It's an emotion that they're feeling. So now we've got to think about stress in a different way. So it gets tossed around a lot in the anti-aging ads all the time. And it's very much linked to antioxidants. Oh, gotta take your antioxidants. But very few people can actually tell you what that means. So let me try. Let me try and do it in like 2 minutes. And again, come and do the Mastering Midlife program because we'll really get into it. Imagine that every time your cells burn fuel. Remember those mitochondria we were saying how they turn nutrients into fuel? So every time that cell burns fuel, they release a few sparks, right? It's like a byproduct. Think of it like a factory. And a factory is making a product, but there's byproducts, right, in that manufacturing process. So the burning of the fuel and a few sparks, let's say. These sparks, these byproducts are called free radicals. There's another buzz term you've probably heard. Oh, free radicals. You've got to neutralize free radicals. What the hell is a free radical? It is the byproduct of our cells burning fuel, right? Free radicals are not stable. They can damage things. They can damage our DNA. They can damage our cell membranes. We don't like free radicals. We have to get rid of free radicals. So how do we get rid of free radicals? Antioxidants. So if we have a strong enough antioxidant defense, we can neutralize those sparks, no problem. So if we have a way of cleaning up the byproduct of our cells burning fuel, then it's no problem. Say we have a little maintenance team that's clearing up all the dirt and byproducts of our body making energy, that's no problem. But what if the sparks pile up? What if there's not enough antioxidants? And what if there's all these free radicals, which remember are just sparks coming off the process of the body making energy? What about if these sparks pile up? What if they create a fire? That is oxidative stress. So your cells are burning fuel. Part of that production of fuel, there's a few sparks go off. And we have antioxidants that put out the sparks. But what about if we don't put out the sparks? What if we haven't got enough antioxidants to put out the sparks and those sparks create a fire? That is oxidative stress. I think I said that pretty well. Over time, oxidative stress accelerates, and it's oxidative stress that creates wrinkles. Now I got your attention. It wrecks joints. It plays a part in chronic disease like heart disease or Alzheimer's. It causes fatigue. Because the mitochondria, remember, it's the mitochondria that's making that fuel. Now it's not really making energy very efficiently because we haven't got the cleanup crew. People hear that, well, I just need to take my antioxidants, because if I had more antioxidants, that would neutralize the free radicals, which are the sparks. But it's more about balance. It's about strengthening our own defense systems through clean diet, through regular exercise, definitely through stress management, so that that fire never gets out of control. So when you get people that are inactive, eating low quality foods, not getting enough sleep, maybe medications, etc., they're not taking care of their own defense system, and those sparks will build up, creating a fire, and that fire is what we call oxidative stress. Now, with regards to antioxidants, remember, antioxidants neutralize the sparks. We have in the cell, we have a built-in supply of antioxidants. But as we age, that diminishes. So as we get older, it becomes more important to eat the foods that are nourishing and that supply antioxidants, because our own antioxidants level is decreasing with age. So again, in midlife, we have to really up our game. We have to just tighten things up. We're not going to get away with what we got away with in our 20s and possibly 30s. So when we're talking about oxidative stress, we have our mitochondria taking nutrients, converting them into energy, turning them into fuel. The cells burn fuel. When we burn fuel, a few sparks fly off. Those sparks are called free radicals. Antioxidants, which we naturally have a supply of in our cell and we can supplement, can neutralize those free radicals. But when they don't, because either there's too many sparks or there's not enough antioxidants, they create a fire, and that is oxidative stress. And oxidative stress is tightly linked to most of the major concerns, either diseases or situations that we see in midlife and beyond. So controlling oxidative stress is hugely important. And because people don't understand it, it is totally overlooked. Now, in this podcast, I've just given you a brief description of what was at 4. I'm not going to do the next one. The next one I was going to talk about methylation, but that might push you over the edge. But what I'm hoping you get from this is just a basic understanding of, what did I cover? Did I cover maybe four things there? Of a list of, I don't know, did I just reel off like 25 or 30 of them? But hopefully just in me expanding a little bit on those 4, you see how important it is and how kind of ridiculous it is to think of health as just weighing less, of just, being in a deficit with less calories. Can you see how, yeah, well, that's important, but that's like not even, taking a chip out of what we need for an optimized, long, vibrant life. We have to go so much deeper when we're having the midlife conversation. It's fascinating. Agreed, it can seem somewhat complex because we've never been taught this information before. But again, when it's presented in a progression, which is what I hope I do in my Mastering Midlife program at least, and maybe I did to a little bit here, you can start to see like, oh wow, maybe that is why I feel tired. Maybe that is why my joints hurt. Maybe this underlying cause that I don't truly understand and honestly can be quite simply fixed. I say a lot in my programs, the information is a bit of a stretch, but the solutions are beyond simple. Beyond. I almost feel like a little bit of a hoax when I give the solutions, the answers, because the answers are so simple, but people won't implement them unless they know the why. So when people just are open to expanding what they know, then the solutions, when offered, are easily implemented. I get compliance because people understand why, those simple actions are important. Wow, I don't even know how long this is, but this could go on for a very, very long time. So I'm going to leave it right here. If this has interested you a little bit, I would invite you to look at the Mastering Midlife program, midlifemonth.com. Once a year, I offer it in a live format. I know you can plug all this into AI. I know you can plug all this into YouTube, but there's no progression to that. There's no implementation with that. My coaching programs are in a small group format. You can be a participant or you can be a spectator. I don't mind. Whichever you want to be, I don't mind. You can be sitting out of view or you can be front and center, sitting next to me, I guess. Whatever role you want to play, but an energy of a group, the experiences, the feedback, the conversations within a group is very, very powerful. It cannot just be me spouting information at you. There has to be a progression. There has to be a conversation. And everything just gets easier with when we feel involved, part of something and part of a conversation. So that's what I hope I offer. I would, at the very least, please go check out the sales page. I've even got a way of splitting the payment into 3 ways. I got so passionate about my coaching. It's so important, and I just don't see very many people doing it. The information's all out there, but it's super simplistic or it's uber complicated. But the worst part is none of it's connected. There's no progression to the information, so you can never actually understand how it relates to your life experience. If you would, whether you join the program or not, if you would like me to continue on this theme and go through a lot of other buzzwords, a lot of the other terminology and help explain a little bit, I'm happy to do that. Just email me at joe@theshrinkshop.com. Also, make sure you go over to my YouTube, Joanne Lee Cornish. I put much longer videos there. And I'm in the process of getting a new website built. So fingers crossed that's going to be good, because good gracious, if it's not, we'll be starting over again. But just trying to streamline what I offer. Okay, that's it for now. Remember, if you would like to bring me into your community, into your own little group, I would love to do that. I love group coaching programs, but I create the group or you can bring the group to me. We can always discuss. All right, that's it for now. I do hope you enjoyed this episode of Midlife Mayhem. Be sure to subscribe and be sure to tell your friends about this wonderful podcast. If you would like more of me, then on social, it's simple, just my name at Joanne Lee Cornish. Also my website, theshrinkshop.com, where you can see all my coaching programs. There are many, many ways we can work together. Obviously, I do private one-on-one coaching. I do all my programs are in a self-study form, and all my programs are run as a live program at least once a year. I try and do twice, but it usually ends up being once. I have mindset program. I have my awesome 5-day peak week shred that people love. I have the signature weight loss program. I have Tight 28, which is advanced weight loss. I have muscle mastery, and I have midlife, mastering midlife. So 6 programs that offer a progression to fully understand body composition through the ages. If you have questions, if you're kind of wondering how I can help you, then simply shoot me an email at jo@theshrinkshock.com. Tell me what's going on, and I'll get back to you and let you know the way I can help. Okay, that's it for now.